Hey, my friend, and welcome to Aligned to Rise, the podcast for ambitious women who are ready to rise above their symptoms, release old limitations, and fully rise into their true power and potential. I'm your host, Alyssa Chavez, functional nutritionist, performance coach, and former endo and infertility warrior who knows what it's like to feel held back by your body and your beliefs. I've taken a journey of true healing from the inside out so that I can show up feeling great in my body, confident and unstoppable. And now I'm here to help you do the same. Through a blend of functional nutrition and deep mindset work, this show will empower you to reclaim your vitality, trust your intuition, and live unapologetically in your purpose. If you're ready to align your body, mind, and spirit so you can rise to your highest potential, you're in the right place. Let's rise, my friend. This show was created for educational purposes only and should not be used as a replacement for medical advice or treatment. Hi, my friend, and welcome back to the podcast. I can't wait to share today's podcast episode because really I believe that what I'm going to share right here is the most powerful pieces of my journey towards conceiving naturally at age 36 after an 8-year-long fertility journey. Because for so many years, I had fallen into a pattern of feeling sad, feeling depressed, feeling frustrated, feeling angry, avoiding everything baby-related, feeling like my body was broken, and spending my time trying to figure out how to fix it. This may sound familiar to you if you've been on a fertility journey of your own or you have in the past. So this year, 2025, I decided to do things differently, to see things differently in order to create a different reality, a different life around me. And today I'm sharing what I had been doing and what I have learned along the way. So I've got 6 things that I feel like are the most powerful things that I stopped doing. And of course, I'm going to share what I was doing instead of that. So let's dive in. Number 1, I stopped viewing my body as something that needed to be fixed. Now, I have endometriosis. I had formerly had some gut issues and all the things, so many things going on in my body. And so for so many years, I really fixated on fixing my body. What can I do to help fix my body and change these parts that I saw as broken or not working correctly? And what I decided to do instead of that is to start to recognize my body's innate capability to heal because our bodies are built for that. Think about when you get a cut on your finger. Do you sit there and stare at it and worry about whether or not it's going to heal? Probably not. Unless maybe you have some particular something going on where that is more of a challenge for your body. For the most part, we just know that if you give it enough time, your body will take care of it. It will heal those tissues to the point where you won't even be able to tell that it happened. And for some reason, we don't always do that with internal stuff or other areas of our body. And so I decided to shift my mindset on that and just recognize how incredibly capable my body is of healing itself, that I didn't need to be doing, fixing. I just started working alongside my body rather than working against it. So that doesn't mean I just completely let go and just did whatever I wanted and figured that my body would just handle it and figure it out. What I mean is I was working alongside my body. I was feeding my body nutritious foods and moving my body and doing all of these things to help to take care of myself. But then that's the part that I can control. And then I decided to let go and let my body do what it does best anyway. And gosh, that gave me a lot of relief. Just spending time visualizing my body healing and doing fabulously and trusting in the process. So that's the first thing that I really stopped doing in 2025. Second thing that I stopped doing in 2025 as I headed towards this pregnancy is I stopped focusing all of my energy on getting pregnant. Now, this may sound counterintuitive because at the end of the day, I did end up pregnant. However, I really did, and I mean this, I stopped focusing all of my energy on that. Because I did that for years. This was an 8-year-long fertility journey, complete with visiting fertility doctors and going through IVF and all of the things. I shared my story recently, by the way. If you missed that episode, head back to episode 105, just a couple of episodes ago. I shared the full story, the full journey. So if you're diving into this episode and you missed that one, definitely go and check that out. But yeah, that's really a huge part of what I did this year is I stopped focusing all my energy on getting pregnant. Now, I know this may sound easier said than done, but I am also a firm believer, especially after this year, that your mindset is such an enormous piece of your health and your healing. So what I did instead of focusing on getting pregnant all day long, because what generally happens, especially when you've had a longer fertility journey, is that you end up focusing on what you don't have. You end up focusing on the fact that, you know, your neighbor or friend or cousin or sister is pregnant and you're not, and all of the what ifs and what could have been, and it just kind of keeps you stuck in this loop. So what I decided to do instead is really focus on myself. And I had been doing that for years anyway. I mean, that's really what led me into this whole journey in the first place, was wanting to really take care of myself. And that's where I, made all these dietary changes and lifestyle changes and all of the things to help to support myself. But what I mean with that more than anything was focusing on myself in just finding more joy and more happiness in my life. Because let's be real, when you are on a fertility journey and you want to be a mom more than anything in the world, or a dad, God bless all the people, all the dudes who want to be dads out there, it can become very all-consuming, where when you're just recognizing all the time that you don't have it, it just kind of takes up your whole life. And so your life ends up being filled with sadness and anger and frustration. And that's not really a great environment to bring a baby into anyway. It's also not a great environment to foster a healthy relationship with your spouse or partner. And so that was one of my huge focuses for 2025, was just finding more joy and more happiness in my life. So doing things like just getting out with my husband and having fun. We live a little bit outside of San Diego, so we would often go down to La Jolla area and just walk around and look at the seals, or go down to Coronado Beach and walk around and look at the beautiful Hotel Del. I know if you're not from San Diego or have never been to the area, you might not know these particular spots, but they're some of the really beautiful areas, places that we just love to go. So that can mean whatever it means for the area that you live, but just finding joy, finding happiness, getting back to activities that I really love, connecting with people who I really love having conversations with and spending time with. Just all of these things that have really helped to bring me back to myself, because I've always considered myself a pretty happy individual. If you ask people who knew me as a kid, I was always a pretty happy kid. I feel like that's the heart of who I am, is I'm a happy person. I try to be a kind person as best I can. And I felt myself really getting away from that for a good chunk of time. And so that was a huge focus for me, was just bringing more joy, more happiness into my life, regardless of where I am on my fertility journey. Because at the end of the day, when or if I did bring a little one into the world, I would want to bring them into a life that's filled with joy and happiness. And it's not dependent on who's there or who's not there, or what I want, what I have, what I don't have, because that's not what life is about. So I decided to have fun and be joyful and happy no matter what. And now that's the beautiful environment that this baby is going to be coming into, is a life that is filled with joy and happiness. So that was number 2 for me. Number 3 is I stopped putting myself under so much pressure, so much stress. And this was in a variety of areas of life. Definitely in relation to my health, I was putting myself under pressure and stress because the reality is for me, I am a functional nutrition practitioner and I help other people with their health every day. And I absolutely love doing that. And I've come a very, very long way in my health even before being able to conceive. However, if I'm honest, there was a part of me that had a little bit of imposter syndrome of, well, if I don't have perfect health, how do I expect the people that I'm helping? But at the same time, that's something that I tell my clients all the time is that, you don't have to be perfect. We're looking for progress. We're looking for improvement. We're looking for how things have shifted and changed. We're not looking for perfection. We're humans with human bodies. But the same is true for me. And for some reason, I would put so much more pressure on myself than I would ever even dream of putting on a client, which is so fascinating how we do that to ourselves. So part of that was health related. Part of that definitely was work related. So I am an entrepreneur. I have my own business. I'm the one responsible for making sure that all the things happen in my business. And it's very easy to put pressure, put stress on myself, to have even unhealthy time boundaries. I mean, I would find myself on my laptop still at 9 p.m. typing away, doing things, working on things, and not really creating space for myself, which of course then isn't great for my health. So it's all kind of a catch-22. So what I did instead of that, instead of continuing to put myself under so much pressure and stress in all the ways, I decided to make some changes in multiple areas of my life. One of those was removing myself from a personal relationship that was getting to be very unhealthy, a friendship I had that just, used to be very conducive to a healthy lifestyle and later just wasn't. And so I had to make the hard decision to kind of separate myself and focus on my own health and my own joy and happiness and all the things in life. I also worked on creating some more boundaries in my work schedule, which was really all about me, by the way. I have wonderful, beautiful clients who are incredibly kind and understanding. I would not say anybody else was putting time pressure on me except for me. It was me. I was putting pressure on wanting to get stuff done, wanting to make sure I got client notes out when I needed to, answering messages any time of day, and doing all of the things on the back end as far as marketing and social media and just all of the things. And what was really helpful for me in just creating some space in my life was just creating some boundaries around that. Just, these are my work hours, at least give or take, doesn't have to be perfect, but these are the hours that I'm working. And these are the times when I'm going to just allow space for myself to read, to rest, to relax, to go on a walk with my dogs, to spend time with my husband. All the things that really fill me up that then in turn allow me to show up better for my clients anyway. So that was definitely a huge change for me, is just not putting myself under so much pressure and stress all the time. Because let's be real, how much of the pressure and stress we have in our lives is self-induced? Yeah. And that can be based on expectations for yourself. That can be based on, just decisions that we make, things that we've decided we have to do. Nobody else can do this. I have to do this. I have to do it right. I have to do it in this time frame. Yeah. Ask me how I know. It's called perfectionism, my friend. And I highly recommend taking a step back from that and learning to do things differently, because it's made a world of difference in my world. Number 4 is I stopped worrying if I would ever be a mom. And that's a tough one, I have to be honest, because I have wanted to be a mom my entire life. I definitely, it's so interesting because I know many other people growing up, like my sister, for example. She thought when she was younger that she didn't want kids. She wasn't sure. And I know many people who were like that. That was not me. I knew when I was a kid that I wanted to be a mom someday. I knew when I got older, when I started dating, I knew that I wanted to be a mom. And it was always a part of my life, my plans for the future. It was always there. It was always a dream of mine. And so when you struggle in that area, then that can be challenging. And it's not that I ever stopped wanting to be a mom. It's just that I decided to change my thought patterns, which is a decision, by the way. I decided to change my thought patterns and stop worrying if I would ever be a mom. Because at the end of the day, it became something that just wasn't really in my control. Now, of course, I know, sure, there's other options. Trust me, I know about all of them. When you've had an 8-year-long fertility journey, you know that there are options to become a mom besides getting pregnant naturally the old-fashioned way. You can adopt. You can do fertility treatments. You can do all these different things. However, the part that nobody talks about is that all of those options are expensive. None of those options are guaranteed. And all of those options also come with a lot of other emotional baggage. There's not an easy route. And everybody's journey is different. Everybody's going to make different decisions. I did go through some of the fertility treatments. I did go through IVF, and I made a decision that I didn't want to do that again. It wasn't for me. That's not to alter anybody else's decisions. I know many people who have gone through IVF and have healthy babies at the end of it. That was not my experience, and I found it to be very challenging physically, mentally, emotionally, all the ways. So anyway, all that to say, the whole situation felt very out of my control, and so absolutely one of the options on the table was just not being a parent. And in a way, it kind of felt out of my control, like it wasn't really a decision for me anymore. At least that's what it felt like at the time. And so I made a conscious decision to open myself up to living a happy, joyful life, no matter where life led me. So I made a decision that if I ended up becoming a mom through some route or another in the future, of course, I would be thrilled by that, which is now the case. However, I also opened myself up to living a happy and joyful life, even if I was never a mom. I have nieces and nephews. I have my husband's nieces and nephews. I have friends who have amazing children who I love to spend time with. And what if that is enough? What if I can still be happy and joyful and enjoy all of that and not be a mom? And so I really did some soul searching on that, some journaling, all the things. And I mean, the beautiful thing is I'm in a wonderful, loving relationship with my husband. I know that I have that. I have so much family around me. I have friends. I have a great life. And so why was I allowing just this one thing of not being a mom to stop me from enjoying that wonderful life? So I decided to think differently. I decided to change my thought patterns and allow myself, because like I said, this is a decision. I decided to allow myself to enjoy my life no matter what. And I truly believe that allowed space in my life, all of these things that I'm talking about today, allowed space for me to then be able to conceive. Because I stopped those constant worrying, nagging thoughts and brought myself into a better space mentally and emotionally and all the things. And I truly believe that made all the difference. Because realistically, I had been working on my health for years. It had been years since I was diagnosed with endometriosis. I had had excision surgery. I had changed my diet, my lifestyle. I had worked on my gut health and my hormone health and so many things. I was doing all of the things to take care of my body, and that's the part that I have control over. So at the end of the day, The rest of it is not under my control, so I might as well just enjoy my life. So that's what I did. Number 5, I stopped letting my emotions control my world. For many years, I did that. I allowed the sadness to consume me, the fear, the frustration and anger about my situation. I allowed all of those emotions to really take over my life. I allowed them to dictate everything that I did, everything that I said, every decision that I made. And I was suffering because of it. And so instead, I learned to recognize those emotions, to honor them. It's not that I'm stuffing things down and just not allowing myself to feel the feels. I fully believe that when you need a good cry, you cry, right? When you are feeling that sadness, allow yourself that, but then also be okay with letting them go. And so as I've shared previously on the podcast, this has been a huge part of the work that I've been doing this year for myself, is really taking a look at my emotions, my thought patterns, my mental state. Obviously, that's a lot of what I'm talking about in this episode. And that has been so huge for me as well. So now it's not like I don't have negative emotions, because goodness knows this is actually going to be a whole separate podcast episode. But being pregnant after an 8-year fertility journey and after having had a miscarriage, it's a challenge mentally and emotionally. And like I said, I'm going to record a whole episode on that coming up, so I'm not going to dive deep into that today. But it's not like getting pregnant solves all of the problems anyway. So if you're going into a pregnancy full of fear and sadness and anger and all of the things, those emotions are just going to come with you. So I started working on that first. I started doing some deep emotional work and starting to change thought patterns and beliefs and all of the things, and was able to let go of some of that, to let go of some of those emotions that were just holding me back from where I wanted to be. And that has really allowed me to be able to enjoy this pregnancy more anyway, to be able to let go of some of that fear and things that come up as you're going into a pregnancy. And last but not least for today, number 6, I stopped worrying about my age, my health history with endometriosis, my AMH levels, which were a little lower than they should have been, my hormone levels, even when ovulation was happening in my cycle, all of it. I let go of all of it. Because for so many years, I spent so much time looking at all of that stuff. And I'm glad I did, if I'm honest, because when I first started this fertility journey, I didn't really understand my body at all. I didn't understand how my hormones worked. I didn't understand how ovulation worked. I didn't understand what was going on in my body. So I'm actually really glad that I did all the testing that I did, that I went through all of the education that I did, that I tracked my cycles for so many years, temperature and looking at symptoms and cervical fluid and all the things, because it did allow me to get a better understanding of my body. But once I had that, once I really understood what was happening, I understood what my body needed, how I could help to support my body, all the things, I came to a point where I realized that doing things like tracking my cycles all the time and constantly testing my hormones and constantly looking at statistics on, how your fertility declines after age 35, as we're all told. I'm 36 now, by the way, and in a geriatric pregnancy, as they so lovingly call it, and I feel better than ever. And I was not able to conceive naturally when I started trying at age 28 or 29 or 30 or 31 or all of the ages that they tell you should be easier to conceive. I was not able to. However, I was at age 36. So it just goes to show you that at the end of the day, that stuff just doesn't, I don't want to say doesn't matter, but constantly focusing on that just is not conducive to your health. So I just let go of all of it. I'm going to get older whether I like it or not. That's not a choice. My health history is my health history. My AMH levels are my AMH levels. And mind you, that's the anti-Müllerian hormone, by the way, for anyone who's not familiar, which gives you a picture of just kind of the overall health of your eggs in your ovaries. And it's been known to be kind of a fertility marker, just like if you're young and healthy, typically your AMH levels are higher. If you're older, maybe you're getting closer towards perimenopause, menopause, that level tends to be lower, and or if you've just had struggles with your health. And at the end of the day, I only needed one egg anyway. I don't need hundreds and thousands. So I just stopped worrying about that. I stopped worrying about my hormone levels. Do I have enough progesterone to keep a pregnancy going? Because you know what? One of the things that your progesterone levels are most sensitive to, and I'm going to do another podcast episode on this, is your mental state. Your body's not going to prioritize reproduction when you're stressed. And so if you're constantly stressed about your health and your body, then your body recognizes that, your nervous system recognizes that, and it's not going to prioritize reproduction. It's going to recognize, like, hey, this doesn't seem like the best time. Maybe we'll hold off on this until later. So what I did instead of worrying about all that stuff all the time is that I spent time instead visualizing a happy, healthy body. I did everything that I know how to nourish it. I hydrated myself. I ate well. I moved my body. I got sunshine. I did things to support my nervous system, practiced my yoga, my meditation, breath work, all the things. And I practiced just living my life instead. At the time that I conceived, I was not tracking my ovulation. I was not paying attention to, at least overtly, was not paying attention to the symptoms in my body. I was not tracking my hormones. I was not going through any sort of fertility treatments. I was not doing testing on my body. I was doing none of that. I was simply enjoying my life, nourishing my body, nourishing my soul, visualizing that happy, healthy body. And then I was simply able to conceive without any fanfare around it. Easily, naturally, all the things after 8 years of that not happening. So that right there kind of paints a picture of where my mind has been this past year, even this past 6 months or so has been really, really big shifts for me. And I know my household has felt it. I know my husband has been happier for it. He was sharing with me that he felt for a long time that he was just walking on eggshells around me. He can't talk about baby. We have a guest bedroom at this point in time, but what will become the nursery. It's the bedroom that's right next to ours. And for quite a long time, I would just keep the door closed. I didn't even want to look in that room. So I had this whole room in my house that I just didn't even want to look at, which I know many of you may be familiar with. And, he just, poor guy, just as much as he's been incredibly loving and supportive on this journey, and of course it's been a journey for him as well. It's not just me going through this, it's the both of us. He was saying how he felt like he was walking on eggshells and just had to be very careful about what he said. Like any little thing would set me off. And I feel like our relationship has really been able to continue to grow and blossom because I have been working on myself, because I have been allowing space for more connection and joy and happiness and all the things in my life. So I just thought that this was so important to share. Anybody who's been on a fertility journey for any length of time, I get it. And some of these changes that I've made, I'll be honest, it wasn't easy. Changing some of these thought patterns and mental states and emotional things and some of these things that we've just habituated worrying about for months and years. And it wasn't easy to make some of those shifts, to change it. But I also felt that it was important for the future health of my relationship and my health and just my life in general. I wanted my life back. I wanted to feel like me again. I wanted to live. And so that was really my focus. My focus really wasn't on conceiving this year, to be perfectly honest. Not that it was ever off the table. It's not like I had given up, but it really was on the back burner as far as my focus and my energy this year. All of that was on my mind, my emotions, my well-being. And by working on all of that, I was able to bring myself into a place of being able to just conceive easily and naturally. And I'm so incredibly thankful for that. So if any of this resonated with you, let me know. Just hop on Instagram, send me a little DM. You can find me at aligned.to.rise, and I'd love to hear from you. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me your feelings. Tell me where your struggles might be. I would love to hear from you, have a little conversation. If this episode really resonated with you, or you know somebody who could really be helped by this episode, I know when I was going through my fertility journey, I loved to look at success stories. I loved to hear the stories of people who had been through fertility journeys and did come out the other side, because it just gave me a dose of hope and inspiration. So if you know somebody else who is going through that and could use a little hope and inspiration themselves, share this episode. Take a moment to pause what you're doing, share this link, send it over, and I hope that this episode can just help more people who are going through these struggles, because no one knows, well, plenty of people know, unfortunately, but I am definitely in the camp of people who really, truly gets it. All right, my friend, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks for being here, and much love to you. We'll talk soon. Thank you so much for tuning in to Aligned to Rise. If this episode spoke to you, take a moment to share it with a friend who needs this message too. And then don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'll see you next time, my friend. Let's rise together.